I'd like to start off by sharing with you some deeply personal information that is potentially embarrassing, just between us. Okay, so here it is. My mother-in-law can't say my name. Now, I know for many that this would be a good thing. In fact, many would prefer that their mother-in-laws didn't even know their name. Not me. I happen to love my mother-in-law very much. She just can't say my name. Now, for many, my name David is a simple one, but not for her. Because not all the phonemes in my name exist in her language, which is Japanese. She also happens to be Japanese, which makes sense as her language is Japanese. Anyway, in Japanese, the V sound is non-existent. In fact, the V and the B sound are the same, so if anyone tells you their hobby is biking, they probably don't spend their weekends pedaling the streets around town, but are more likely out plundering and pillaging neighboring countries 1,200 years ago, or visiting buffets. So, to my mother-in-law, I am not David, but Debbie, which sounds a lot like the English name Debbie. On top of this, as is common in Japan with those you are close to, she appends the diminutive chan to the end, which is kind of a term of endearment often used for children. So Debbie-chan would probably translate into English as something like Little Debbie. This is kind of cool because, as some of you know, Little Debbie is a famous brand of American snacks, and Little Debbie spends her days baking muffins and snack cakes for the American populace. A noble occupation. In addition to urging you to curtail your cravings for high-calorie snack cakes, I also want to tell you there is something sweet about the way my mother-in-law says my name. I am Debbie-chan to her, and that no one else calls me that fills that incarnation of my name with a significant identifying connection because she is saying my name in her way. She's doing the best she can. And when she calls me Debbie-chan, I hear warmth, love, acceptance, and sometimes chocolate-covered fluffy snacks and easy-to-open plastic wrappers. Now, I lived in Japan for a long time, and I can also tell you that neither my mother-in-law, my wife, who refers to me as him, or anyone else in Japan expected me to change my name to one that was easier for them to say. I never became Hiroyuki or Naruto. In fact, that would have been silly. However, when our students come to our international school from East Asian countries, especially from countries whose language is particularly challenging for Western language speakers, they change their names to Western ones. They become Billy, Sally, Jim, and Jane. They name themselves after characters from Disney movies or Lord of the Rings, or sometimes fruit. And invariably, when I ask them why, when I say, "Why, Strawberry, do you not go by your real name, the one that your parents gave you? You know, the one that they spent days thinking about, consulting friends and family about, the one for which they had to choose just the right Chinese, Japanese, or Korean characters, the name that every time it is uttered carries with it your parents' hopes, that identifies you as a member of your community and people, the name that transports your history with you to wherever you journey?" Strawberry looks at me perplexed and says, "Well, Little Debbie," she doesn't say that. She says what all of my students who don the costume of Western monikers say: to make it easier for others to say my name. By the way, half of my teachers couldn't pronounce my last name when I was in school, but if I had come home and told my father I wanted to change my name from Schneer to Smith, he would have said, "Not in this lifetime, Debbie." And then I think about my son's name and all of the meaning that it encapsulates. His mother and I thought long and hard about the best name for him because this is the name that will identify him to his entire world throughout his life. We wanted a name that would be easy to pronounce for both Japanese and Americans, so we chose a name that sounded natural in both languages, in the same way that David does not. Noah fit the bill. We eliminated the H that traditionally comes at the end so as not to confuse the Japanese side. My wife and I are animal lovers. She loves to watch them. I love to eat them. No, she loves to eat them too. Okay, stop, I'm kidding. She's a vegetarian. I'm also an animal lover in the traditional sense, and we expected our son to be an animal lover too, just as Noah was in the Old Testament of the Bible, at least until he spent 40 days and nights on a boat with them. More importantly, we wanted his name's kanji, the Japanese characters, to be meaningful. The first character, no, means hope. And the second, means Asia. Our family has spent our lives in Asia, and his home will always be part of his name. Maybe because he is a multicultural kid, his name is his home. And when you combine the characters, they mean the hope of Asia. And after checking with the Japanese government's Ministry of Spiritual Affairs, I believe Noah's name signifies that he is the Messiah of the greater Asiatic region, which is a lot of pressure for a child. But if you have any requests for salvation or an animal, perhaps a monkey or a capybara, let me know and I'll pass it along. When our students come to our international school from other Asian countries and they assign themselves or are assigned Western names to replace their original ones, this is accepted. Not just accepted, expected, even encouraged. We international school teachers who hold high the flag of global mindedness and inclusion perpetuate this practice. Now, I always find it a good idea to pause after I throw accusations at an audience, and this is a good place for us to stop. If you look under your seats, you will find delicious individually wrapped snack cakes. Not really. Have a carrot. But this is a good time for me to ask you in all seriousness about your name. What does your name mean? What does it mean to you, to your family? Where does it come from? How did you get it? What family history is packed inside it? And what is your name's story? My dear friend Lara Esteban asks her students this same question every year after they read my name. A vignette from Sandra Cisneros' The House on Mango Street, in which the main character, Esperanza, tells us, in English, my name means hope. In Spanish, it means too many letters. It means sadness. It means waiting. It's like the number 9. A muddy color. It's the Mexican records my father plays on Sunday mornings when he is shaving. Songs like Sobbing. So every year, I too ask students to do the same and tell me about their names. And this is what they've said.
After using this name for 60 years, I'm still surprised by how colorful it is. When I write my name, I see the color flowing over the characters. That artist conception would be working if I changed any part of my name. So it's best for me to stay this way.
This name has had a deep emotional connection with me. I struggle to express this feeling into words. It is simple for me to remember and accurately describe who I am. I feel as if this name was picked for me because it suits me and who I am as a person.
Mine is a special character that no one uses in modern Chinese. It's special enough that when people see this character, they don't even know how to pronounce it. It's so special that I can feel this character can only label me.
Sometimes foreigners cannot pronounce my name correctly and it makes their faces look confused. I do not know what they feel when they say a name without any meaning in their language or how it affects their first impression of me. But it means a lot in Chinese language and they would be deeply impressed if they knew.
Almost everyone comments on my name when they know what it means in Chinese, and I totally agree with them.
I knew then that names not only represent a person, they are also what other people see and expect from us.
So when our students come to us, shrouding themselves in Western names at the expense of their own names, which they have worn their entire lives, why are we not in the practice of questioning this decision? Because it is easier for us to say they're synthetic Western names, because we're lazy. Yet we should remember that the Western world has a long serrated colonial history of naming and signifying. In her book addressing the problems of students with Asian heritage integrating into international schools, Danao Tanu writes, "Students who are not part of the Western mainstream English-speaking groups are perceived as a nameless, faceless other." The author Tanu asked Anton, a student from an Asian country, about why he thought the non-Asian fluent English speakers did not know the Asian students' names. Anton shrugged his shoulders, she writes, and said, "They don't try, I guess." We don't try, at least not hard enough, but you should. Learn our students' names, their real names. Honor them. Use them. After my students go through the exercise of thinking, really thinking about their names and all of the rich meaning locked inside, that is the time that I ask them, "Now, what would you like me to call you?" I ask. And invariably they say they would like to be called by their real names. And this is where I have to try, because to be honest with you, I have a very difficult time saying some of their names the way they should be said. So I confess to them, "I can't promise you," I continue, "that I will pronounce your name the way it should be pronounced. But," I say, "I can promise you that I will keep trying to say it right, and you can correct me as often as it takes, and if I continue to get it wrong, then bear with me and be patient. Because the truth is," and I look around the room to emphasize my point, "that most of you mispronounce my name too. But this is part of what it means to live amongst the people of the world rather than sheltered away in the safety of your own community. The different ways that your name is said represents the different relationships and connections you have in a global community. I still believe that a person has a right to be called whatever they want to be called. My father was the one that taught me that. But he also taught me that all debts and friendships are canceled when a person moves out of a city, and he still owes me $11. After all, Esperanza in the My Name vignette didn't particularly like her name. She wanted to change her name to Ziza the X. Let's be honest, young people will not always make the best decisions, especially when they're choosing their name that they would like to be called. And yes, I am looking at you, Strawberry. But the point still stands that a person should be able to be called what they like, as long as that decision is a well-thought-out one. However, we are not doing our job as teachers if we are encouraging students to choose names that are not their own without their first understanding the reasons behind that choice, the meaning of the Western names they are choosing, and what the new name means for their identity, and how it places them further away from their own culture and country so that they can fit into an international school. If your home language is a Western language, pronouncing Asian names is not easy, but it'll never get easier if you don't give it a go. And that is your obligation. Ask your students, what do your parents call you? And students, be forgiving with your Western language speaking teachers and friends. Help them learn your name. And if they don't say it exactly the way it should be said, be patient. This is what global mindedness sounds like, an intersection and polyphony of fluctuating cultural nuances and resonances. The title of my talk is What's in a Name? But that is an intentional irony because I'm going to make a statement that you don't hear very often. Shakespeare was wrong. When Juliet posits that Romeo's name is not important and he would still be the same dude if he were instead named anything else, perhaps Hamster Drivel or Flatterfluff, I don't buy it. Maybe I'm wrong and there are millions of ninth graders who would have no issues passionately reciting from a balcony set, "Alas, wherefore art thou Flatterfluff?" Romeo didn't change his name, but our students do, and when they do, they are no longer the roses that they once were. Essentially, when our students change their names for their Western teachers and friends, they are giving them permission to never attempt to learn their names that they have kept their entire lives until they entered an international school. Names that evoke all of the parental musings, dreams, longings, and family rituals that are associated with that name when it is uttered aloud. Before I face my mother-in-law for telling the whole world about how she says my name, I'd like to leave you with the final words of a student. My name is the very first thing I own that finds me, telling me in words that I am. It took years to realize what my parents wanted me to understand, to discover and build my own outstanding self, to find my difference and always be sincere, loyal, and honest to myself. I follow the road it points. My name is in my bones and blood. Thank you, and may you go in global mindedness and an abundance of snack cakes.